black athletes have a 1.5% speed advantage in running because their center of mass is about 3% higher above the ground than white athletes.
So I have a 1.5% better running technique than white people. Ha ha, I'm genetically advantageous compared to you in terms of running. I'm just kidding, I'm not even that fast, bro. Growing up, I remember there being a stigma that black people were just superior athletically, and that's why we were gifted in certain sports. That didn't apply to me, okay? No, I did not make it to the NBA or the NFL, surprisingly, right? But is this even true? Do black athletes dominate more? Are black athletes, you know, genetically superior? So today we're gonna be checking out, why do black athletes dominate?
It was 1980. Jimmy Carter was the president of the United States. Brezhnev was the leader of the Soviet Union, which hosted the Olympics. And it marked a milestone there. It was the last time a white guy won the 100-meter dash. But it was
a white guy hasn't won the 100-meter dash for freaking that many years?
More than that. It was the last time any white man in the world even qualified for the finals. And that was 44 years ago. Black athletes do incredibly well, especially in track and field, basketball, and American football. So why?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Why do black people seem to dominate sports? And is that belief really accurate? Hey, I'm Ken LaCourte.
This is our favorite Walter White, bro.
My goal is to give you an honest look here. It's not about declaring any race superior or inferior.
You sure about that, pal? You sure? You sure? You sure? All right.
But about what differences exist by race in sports and why.
Okay.
First, we'll look at whether black athletes actually do dominate sports. Then we'll check out the cultural differences at play and also look into the genetic differences.
Are there any genetic differences off the top? I mean, the elephant in the room is black people used to be slaves, and are there actually slave genes? Is that a thing? Like, I've always heard of like slave traits and stuff being passed down, but do we have like a genetic advantage when it comes to, you know, putting on weight or putting on muscle?
Examining what the science actually says and doesn't say about racial variations in athletic ability.
Okay.
Now let's look at the numbers that make some people uncomfortable. Are black people really better at sports? The answer is kind of, but it depends on the sport.
Okay.
When we look at professional sports, it's hard to ignore some obvious patterns.
Like what?
About 3/4 of NBA players are black. And that's in a country where black people make up about 13% of the population.
That is a good point. But the thing is, there are also like black and white sports. I mean, there are sports that, you know, black people just played more because we have more accessibility to it. Like, for example, basketball courts. You're more likely to find a basketball court in the hood. Not even just the hood, but in any local neighborhood where black people live. Then, for example, an ice skating rink for hockey. I don't know. There are just sports that we don't play that much. Like, for example, soccer.
In the NFL, almost 2/3 of the players are black.
Okay.
But in this case, the demographics change when we look at certain positions. Cornerbacks and running backs are overwhelmingly black.
Right.
While quarterbacks and kickers have historically been mostly white.
Yeah.
Though it is changing somewhat. In running,
I feel like with quarterbacks, bro, if y'all are familiar with football, there's like a group of people who think that like black people can't play quarterback because, you know, black people are like not smart enough to play that position. I don't know.
East African runners, especially those from Kenya and Ethiopia, have completely crushed marathons for decades. With only 2 exceptions, in the last 33 years, the Boston Marathon has always been won by an East African man.
Really?
But flip to swimming, and you get a completely different picture.
It's Michael.
At the 2016 Rio Olympics, 45 of the 50 finalists in men's...
Okay, this is cheating though. Black people didn't really grow up swimming like that. Let's be real, okay? You're not having like swimming facilities in the average, you know, black neighborhood. Let's be real. So it's hard to access. And historically, black people don't really swim as much as other people, I'm guessing, right?
45 of the 50 finalists in men's and women's 100-meter freestyle events were white. Black Americans are also underrepresented in sports like tennis, golf, field hockey, archery, softball, and soccer. Blacks make up only 5% of professional hockey players.
Blacks? All right, Walter White. Hey. I know you need some PR training. I would advise against saying blacks unless you don't care about getting canceled, buddy. Brief intermission. If you're enjoying the video so far, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers.
Blacks make up only 5% of professional hockey players. And the U.S. Figure Skating Association reported in 2022 that 73% of its members were white, 2% were black, and 18% were Asian.
Interesting. I think, actually in America, probably figure skating is got to be the most Asian-dominated sport. Because I'm trying to think, what other sports do Asian people play in America? Baseball? Oh, baseball, huh?
2% were black, and 18% were Asian. Speaking of Asians, they absolutely kill it in table tennis and have since the 50s when Chairman Mao declared it the national sport.
Really? Table tennis? I ain't gonna lie, I'm low-key trash at table tennis. I need more practice, but like playing ping pong is like... I don't know. The intricate movements are a little too. I like tennis better, like regular tennis.
So
I'm bad at that
It's
too.
clear that different races excel in different sports and play different sports to begin with. Women's gymnastics has historically been the domain of white and Eastern European athletes, but Simone Biles is likely the greatest gymnast ever, and the demographics of that sport are shifting, as well as some other sports. Okay, so that's some of the racial patterns in sports.
Okay.
Now let's dig into why they exist at all.
Yeah.
One of the first things to look at is the cultural factors that shape the racial landscape of sports.
True.
It's not as simple as like they're now.
No, definitely culture is very impactful because think about it. Asians probably dominate table tennis because they grew up playing table tennis versus black people probably dominate basketball in NFL because we grew up playing a lot of basketball and football versus white people probably dominate soccer and hockey because they grew up playing soccer and freaking hockey. Like that's kind of how it goes.
Really good at it. So in the 1940s, black baseball players were forced into a separate league. When that changed, we saw the depth of talent that had been sidelined. Integration reshaped the entire sports landscape, and as certain sports became more accessible to minorities, they became cultural touchstones.
Okay.
Basketball became a beacon of hope in many black communities. All you really needed to get better was a court. Easy to find even in crowded cities, and you needed a ball too. The game doesn't require any expensive equipment or large fields in order to play.
Bro, you don't even need shoes. Like I've seen people in the Philippines play barefoot. I know they're probably scarring their feet. I did that before. I'm a former like actual legitimate basketball player, by the way. Trust me, I know.
And then there's the potential income. For many kids growing up in poor neighborhoods, sports aren't just a pastime. They're a potential ticket out of poverty.
That's a good point.
When you're surrounded by economic hardship, that NBA or NFL contract is a lifesaver.
Oh, interesting. So he's saying that like maybe some black people or people in poverty in general don't pursue other sports sometimes because the contracts aren't nearly as lucrative.
And the economic incentives aren't just about the players either. Entire communities rally around local athletes who look like they might be headed to the big leagues. A successful athlete is not only a source of pride, but also investment for a hometown.
That's true.
So it's clear that in some communities, certain sports are woven into the very fabric of daily life. Think about how deeply ingrained soccer is in Latin American countries.
Yeah.
And this cultural emphasis creates a feedback loop. The more a community values a sport, the more kids play it. The more kids play it, the better they get. And the better they get, the more the community values it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that can shape generations of athletes.
I think also for soccer, bro, correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody is familiar with, soccer and stuff, or football, it's football, not soccer. Yeah, I'm sorry, bro, whatever. It's not that big in America, but also our leagues are not that great, right? Like, I know we have Messi now, but besides him, I never really heard anything about American soccer leagues.
There's also power in seeing someone who looks like you succeed.
Right.
Role models can be game changers. And if you see heroes who look like you winning games and earning big, you're more likely to be able to see yourself in that role.
That's a good point.
I mean, sometimes we all need someone to show what's possible. Inspiration is a powerful tool.
True.
So when Simone Biles emerged as a gymnastics powerhouse, the number of black girls who began starting that sport shot up.
That's interesting. Having that inspiration, yeah. Like, for example, a lot of us, were inspired to play basketball because like LeBron James. So yeah, he's right.
This effect also can be complicated because when Tiger Woods burst out onto the golf scene, there was an initial surge of interest in golf among ethnic minorities. But since then, the numbers have dropped off, likely due to the expense of the sport and the lack of infrastructure.
No, facts. You gotta have a lot of like tools, a lot of time to play golf, to do golf, right? Is it play golf or do golf?
To let kids in underprivileged communities play it more easily. Now let's look at snow skiing, a sport dominated by whites. At the professional and Olympic level, it's overwhelmingly won by athletes from nations with more wealth and more snow. In these countries,
for snow. I mean, you need more snow to get used to snowboarding, but also you need to have money to buy the skiing products and stuff.
Is deeply ingrained with the culture, with youth development programs and easy access to facilities.
Yeah.
Still, however you look at it, it's expensive. The equipment, training, and access to slopes means athletes often need substantial financial backing from their families or communities to reach the elite level.
And he's saying a lot of times, white families would have that advantage more so. I guess it's cultural too, because there are a lot of Asian families that have money, but they don't really care about skiing, I guess.
Ski resorts and facilities are often located far from urban centers where minority populations tend to be concentrated in the United States. But we can't blame everything on money. Norwegians dominate Olympic sports like cross-country skiing and speed skating, and they can do those things right out their front door.
True.
Families cross-country ski and skate together, and kids start as soon as they can walk. It's ingrained into their culture.
Bro, a freaking sport that's based on your weather is kind of crazy though. Like, what can you really expect? Of course, the freaking people with snow all day, 24/7 access is gonna be, advantageous in that.
And that feeds back to the role models. A lack of diversity in skiing and winter sports makes it harder for minority youth to see themselves playing that game. Just
point.
as some sports get an entire community rallying behind them, others spark no interest in regions that haven't traditionally played them.
Right.
And it's not just winter sports or expensive ones. Other fields that don't see much diversity are tennis and lacrosse, archery, softball, soccer. It's an intertwined mix of culture and economic forces at play.
Right.
Okay, so given that, now let's look into the most controversial part of the whole puzzle, genetics. This is where things get really interesting and usually a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Now, it's good to be careful here. The argument that different races have different genetics can lead to some terrible beliefs and ideologies. But it's also silly to insist that there are no physical differences between people from around the world. We should all be smart enough to look at that without getting too weird about it, but that's often not the case.
Oh no, we're getting weird, buddy. We're getting real weird. I'm kidding. We're approaching this subject with a mature mindset, guys.
I like that Jimmy the Greek moment that happens in sports, you know? Like once every 4 or 5 years, you know that? Like some 50, 55-year-old white dude tries to explain why black people are kicking the shit out of white people in practically every major sport, you know? And it always goes down the same way, right?
What?
Literally 20 minutes later, that dude's on TV, he's like fired, right? He's crying, his family's standing there, he's got like a box of shit from his desk with like an Emmy sticking out. He's like, I don't know what I said, I was just talking about the quick twitch and the slow twitch, and I wasn't just trying to make a point.
Anyhow.
Black people have quicker twitch muscles, is that what we saying?
Hey, this is a good time to let you know, if I make any substantive mistake in this video, I'll fix it in the pinned comment below, assuming I'm not fired by sundown. Okay, so are there genetic differences between races that contribute to athletic performance? Yes, of course, but it's complicated. Overall, there's actually more genetic diversity within racial groups than between them. But that doesn't mean there aren't genetic variations that cluster in certain populations. Scientists have noted that certain genetic traits help certain sports.
Like
For
what?
instance, many elite sprinters.
Oh, like maybe having longer legs is better for elite sprinters or being taller? Because like Usain Bolt, I heard that he wasn't all that fast. No, he was fast. But because he had longer limbs, more advantageous. I don't know.
Many elite sprinters of West African descent have a higher proportion of fast twitch muscle fibers, which are crucial for explosive powers. These fibers contract quickly but tire more easily, making them ideal for short bursts of speed. On the flip side, East African runners, particularly from Kenya and Ethiopia, dominate long distance. Now, some researchers say it may be less about their muscle composition and more about their slim build and long legs relative to their height.
Right, that's what I was saying. Like slimmer builds, longer legs. Yeah, that would make sense for more a cross-country thing because then you're being, lighter on your feet. You're being lighter, you can move less body weight,
Efficiency. A 2010 study in the International Journal of Design and Nature proposed that black athletes have a 1.5% speed advantage in running because their center of mass is about 3% higher above the ground than white athletes.
So I have a 1.5% better running technique than white people. Hey, if you're watching this and you're white, I'm genetically advantageous compared to you in terms of running. I'm just kidding. I'm not even that fast, bro. No, actually, I'm fast. No, I take that back. I'm fast. I probably don't have the gene.
This supposedly allows them to fall forward more quickly between strides. Now, that sounds scientific, but a lot of other scientists are skeptical of such a cut and dry explanation. Another controversial idea among some scientists links the prevalence of sickle cell trait among people of West African origin to a higher percentage of fast twitch muscle
Having sickle cell makes you fast twitch? We are all trying to catch the sickle cell disease, bro.
fibers. But that hasn't seen a lot of solid evidence to back it up. On the flip side, look at the relative lack of Asians in sprinting events. Some researchers say this is body proportions, suggesting that the populations generally have shorter limbs relative to their torso length, which makes sprinting harder. But again, these are theories and it's kind of hard to test exactly. And then finally, let's not forget the role of epigenetics. Epigenetics looks at how an athlete's body responds to training, recovers from injuries, and responds to different environmental conditions.
Do black people just like freaking bounce back better? Is that what is that where we're going?
Just that while genetics might give some individuals an edge, the way these genes are expressed can be influenced by factors like training and diet, even an athlete's mindset. This could partly explain why athletes from certain regions excel in certain sports. It might not just be the genes, but how those genes interact with their environment and lifestyle. And let's not forget that genes that help in a particular sport could be a disadvantage in another. The body type that's ideal for a marathon runner is very different from what you'd want for an offensive tackle.
That's a good point. You want a fat, meaty boy, on this line, pushing people around. Versus, an Olympic runner, you want a skinny, scrawny, small dude who can run, for long distance, not for that fast necessarily, or fast, but the long distance and the endurance matters a lot more. I would say, bro, I feel like so far it doesn't seem like there's enough data to really prove that there's varying differences between the races. I mean, like, let's be real. There are black people who are trash at marathons and very good at like more physical sports like the NFL. There are white people who are really good when it comes to, I don't know, freaking marathons. And there are white people who can play goddamn offensive line. And there are white people who can do really good in, like, I don't know, wrestling. Like, it doesn't, I don't know. And it's obviously, it's not just white and black, but there's, Hispanic people, there's Asian people, yada, yada.
So it's clear to say that when you look at the research, there is no clear pat answer.
Right.
The relationships are science, but they're really unsettled still.
Okay.
But still, there are some undeniable characteristics in the most elite athletes that seems to show up in some races more than others. Of course, all of this raises the question, should we as a society be trying to change the racial makeup of competitions? I mean, certainly making all sports financially accessible to all kids is a good goal.
Right.
But if you just look at the colors of those who win or those who play, that makes things a lot more complicated. And sports is full of exceptions to every rule. It may be true that some races dominate certain sports, and that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just a fact with some interesting reasons behind it. It's similar to what I found when I tried to figure out why Arab armies almost always seem to lose against Western powers.
Based on this video, I feel like we just don't have enough statistics to really say. I mean, maybe I was thinking, okay, for black people, maybe black people are on average taller, but I don't even think that's the case. I think black people and white people on average are the same height, unless you go to like Africa. There's really tall people in Africa, which is why I guess there are a lot of like tall African centers in the NBA, if you're familiar, like freaking Joel Embiid. But the reason why certain races are good at certain sports is more so economical and cultural than anything else. It kind of makes sense for black people to really pursue basketball from the beginning. Obviously the paychecks. The reason why people think black athletes are so dominant, more than anything, might be because the sports that we're trying to pursue are the sports that pay the most and are the most popular and most famous in our country. If you're raised to pursue basketball from the beginning of your life all the way up, and black people were taking over and dominating it, there's so much money in it. Of course, people in America are gonna be like, yo, black athletes are dominating because these are the biggest sports in America. Looking at skiing or looking at lacrosse, looking at golf, looking at archery, there are technically more sports that white people are probably dominating at than black people, but because they're not as popular, people might not be looking at them as much. You get what I'm saying? So either way, there's no real statistical evidence to say that black athletes are superior, unless there is, and I don't know, we gotta find out in another video. But that's gonna do it for today's video. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Link me any videos you want me to check out, as always, in the Discord, link in the description. Please make sure you sub to the channel. As always, it's Love Hello, I love you, and I'm out.